Hello and welcome again to Lanford High School Sports Show, Shot Clock, the show in which various topics from the world of sports are discussed and the panelists are given 24 seconds to make their point. I'm your host, Dusean Benjamin. On tonight's show, we will talk about the highly publicized allegations of the Jonathan Martin and Richie Incognito case. Also, who do you think we will see in the BCS National Championship, and who do you think is going to win it all? And our concluding segment, we want to know what's your opinion of Brad Ausmus and how well do you think he's going to do with managing the Detroit Tigers? Our panelists for this episode is the infamous Dwayne Hogan, the beautiful Remi Monaghan, and the conceited Kristian Fredlund. Before we begin, let's take a second to acknowledge our timekeeper, Mike Kapala. Mike, how you doing, man? You okay?
I'm doing great, Dusean. Yourself?
I'm doing just fine, Mike.
That's good.
Now, ladies and gentlemen of the Shot Clock world, if you are an NFL fan like us here on Shot Clock, I know you have been seeing and hearing a lot about this Jonathan Martin and Richie Incognito chit-chat. The text messages that had claimed to be so unreal, or so they say didn't exist, have just been released as of last week. And what I seem not to understand, Shot Clock fans, is that 3 days later, after Martin left the team, he texted Cognito as if nothing had been happening. And in those messages, Martin seemed apologetic to Cognito for all this happening. So with that being said, I think that Martin's case is a big bluff. And it's a simple case of guys being guys, and what can happen when you're a professional athlete. So do I think Martin is being a crybaby? No. Remi, do you agree? You're on the clock.
I believe Martin's being a little bit of a crybaby. I think, however, the culture in the locker room needs to change. Throwing around racial slurs and threatening people's family members aren't very polite. So they definitely need to change the culture in the locker room, but you never know what you can say is going to offend someone.
Dwayne, what do you think? Boys being boys, or Cognito is just too much for Martin to handle?
Incognito did nothing wrong. Jonathan Martin is a big crybaby. He took soft to a whole nother level. And Remi, I don't even know what stands you just took. What do you think? Incognito didn't do anything wrong. There's a thing called hazing. Martin is just being a big crybaby. He needs to get over it. He needs to play football. They're men, and he's just being a baby, and I don't even want him in the league.
Okay, Kristian, with all that being said, what do you honestly think is going on with this whole case?
You know, I couldn't agree with Dwayne more. The level that the NFL is getting to, with how soft they're being, it's just ridiculous. If you've ever been around a locker room, it doesn't even have to be NFL. That's what goes on in there. That's what's being said. It's the simple fact, it is what it is. That's the bottom line. He is being a crybaby. He needs to suck it up and get over it. I think Dwayne hit it right on the head. He's soft.
Now, there's no doubt the number state Florida 2 Seminoles and the number 1 Alabama Crimson Tide hasn't already been said to most likely see in the BCS National Championship. With the amazing season that both teams are having, going undefeated, and from the looks of things, neither teams are showing signs of slowing down. Now, when it comes to college football, no one knows more than the abominable K-Fred. Now, Kristian, Alabama or Florida State, who and why? You're on the clock.
Obviously, Florida State will win the BCS championship game. They're front seven. It's an SEC front seven. They're grown men. Nobody can compete. If they play in the national championship, I see Florida State winning 35-10 just because the defense is too experienced and too dominant. And Jameis Winston's clutch, and he'll come through.
Remi, who are you going for, Alabama or Florida State?
Absolutely, Alabama's going to be the top contender. And T.J. Yeldon has 862 rushing yards total this season. And Alabama also has way more experience in big league games like this than FSU does. Winston will choke, and they're not going to be able to pull out this game. The only team they've ever beat this season is the biggest team they beat is Clemson, and that wasn't really that big of a deal anyway.
Dwayne, BCS National Championship. Who do you think will be victorious when push comes to shove? Who and why? You're on the clock.
Let's get this clear. Florida State will be in the national championship, but they won't play the Tide. They'll play the Ohio State Buckeyes because Alabama will fall to either Auburn or Missouri or South Carolina in the SEC championship. But when they play the Florida State Seminoles, they will blow them out of the water because Braxton Miller is one of the best quarterbacks of all time.
Now, for all those Major League Baseball fans out there amongst the world, the Detroit Tigers have been appointing a new manager, Brad Ausmus, as of November 3rd, and most people are saying is a bad idea because of his age, which is only 44. And some say that 44 is just simply too young. But to me, honestly, age should not be what matters in this case. His experience should be what matters after playing an 18-year big league career. You would think that he is well qualified for the job, but some still may think that's not good enough to be a manager of a Detroit Tigers baseball team. Dwayne, you're on the clock.
Look, this guy will ruin the organization. Let me tell you why. He's too young. He won't even be able to control the players on the team. And this is what Remi, before you even talk, I already know you're going to say he's charming and he's a good guy all around. But you know what? That doesn't matter. Only thing that matters is winning. And if he doesn't win, he needs to be out of that organization ASAP Rocky. For sure.
Okay, Remi, here's your chance. What do you think?
Honestly, I didn't know who Brett Ausmus was until he got hired and I went and researched him. He won 3 Golden Gloves and was on the All-Star team in 1999. He was also the coach for the Israel national baseball team in the World Series. He seems like a really nice guy. He's also really good looking. And but I do believe that 44 is a little young, and I'd like to see how he can hang up with the Tigers.
Kristian, what do you think about all this?
He can have all the good looks and all the gold gloves he wants. He will not be able to bring a championship to Detroit. If Jim Leyland couldn't do it, he can't do it. He will not get the players to play for him, no matter how young, old, green, blue, whatever he is. He won't get the players behind him just for the simple fact that I think in Detroit they all play for themselves because they're a selfish team. So I don't think
Okay, that wraps up our panel discussion for this week. That's all for this week's episode. Join us next week for more intense and controversial sports talk on Lanfear's #1 sports show, Shot Clock.